When I was in Saudi, I had 16-hour days, really long days, short nights. Sleep was not really a priority because it was just go, 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 a lot of on.
Right.
But I ended every single night with vagal nerve stimulation.
Good.
Because I needed my nervous system to kind of reset and help fill my bucket so I can handle the next 16-hour day.
Right. Some people will call HRV a stress indicator. I think that's a mistake. It's not a stress indicator. It's the indicator of the amount of resources that you have to deal with stress. It's the king variable for me. There's three things that you just cannot ignore. Number one is...
But I want to kick off this week's episode with a little bit of a warning. Welcome back to the 90% Healthy podcast. I am your co-host, Klaudia, and I've got Don on the other line.
Klaudia back in the country after a great trip over to Saudi Arabia to Biohackers World? What was it called?
No, it was Zeno's Health Summit.
Zeno's Health Summit. And Zeno's kind of a new brand. I don't know that I've come across them before.
Yeah, it was their first conference, and it was the first one really hyper-focused on longevity and biohacking in the Middle East. And
Okay.
I gotta say, the response was impressive.
Good.
Like, you had people from the US, from the UK, from Dubai, and from Saudi, from all levels of expertise and experience. And it was just such a niche community, and they definitely sold it all out. I mean, there's no way they can continue at this venue next year. It was really
Wow.
cool.
Good for them.
So it was nice.
Well, it's interesting. And I'll tell you, you and I were talking earlier today about, the challenges with this biohacking space. And we'll do an episode on this coming up about, listen, if you went with every recommendation that came across your Instagram feed for a supplement or for something or other, listen, you'd bankrupt yourself. I mean, it's crazy. And so, and I have had family members saying, I love this stuff you talk about, but I don't know that I can swing it. And so part of me is like, when it's the right product, I don't know how you don't swing it, number one. Number two, it's about priorities, but we can also prioritize. And I think, and so look for an episode coming up on biohacking, working your
On
way
a
from the
budget.
bottom up. And, that word almost came out of my mouth,
Yeah, that's what you said earlier. So I'm like, what?
but part of me it's about the priorities
Yeah.
and prioritizing. Listen, we've used this term metabolic economics, return on investment. We can go out and buy some very expensive stock and get very little returns, or we can go out and do some things and get great returns. It's return on investment is what we start to deal with here. And I think, we'll talk about that as we go. I think that's an important concept.
Yeah, and I think that there is a momentum in really democratizing longevity science and democratizing biohacking, so it is more accessible to the masses, because you're right, it is still considered a very, upper class playground.
Yeah. And some people think it's new, but I go back to, I was having a conversation with someone earlier this week, and we were talking about the early Nautilus facilities, Arthur Jones's Nautilus facilities. And this was an evolution from the barbell gymnasiums, the YMCAs with the heavy barbell emphasis and the strongman emphasis. And Arthur Jones, listen, straight up, this guy was a straight up misogynist and wanted to create a place where women felt comfortable. And, there might have been some predatory behaviors there too, but go back to, this is late 60s, early 70s. This is when I was kind of stepping into the space, learning about these things. So we've been biohacking for a long time. Protein supplementation and so forth has been. I think the thing that's changing right now is with the rapid onset of very interesting technologies and our ability to see the metabolic return on investment, your ability to look at, I did this, I got that. I did this, I got that, which, years ago was hard to do. I remember I was teaching, this would have been about 35 years ago. And we were teaching people that you measure your heart rate with 2 fingers on the carotid artery. And we also taught them that you can see a change in flexibility in a day. You can see a change in strength in about 2 weeks. You can see a change in cardiovascular fitness in 3 to 4 weeks, and you can see a change in body composition over a period of months. This is, and again, this is 35 years ago. Well, now here's the difference: is I bought a device called a Velotron. It was a bike ergometer that plugs into a computer, and I had a really good bonus check from Polar one day, and I said, I'm buying a toy. So I buy this Velotron, and literally, so I'm working for Polar at the time. I'd left academics and was working for Polar, and I had access to all this heart rate technology, which was very cool. And we're going to do an episode on heart rate variability, heart rate technology as well. But what I saw was I could get on my Velotron, ride for an hour, and I could see my average wattage increase on a daily basis at a given heart rate. And so what I was teaching, you can see a change in cardiovascular fitness in weeks. With the right technology, you can see it in days, that the next day. So it's about the application of technology. And that's kind of what we're going to get into today a little bit about how do we apply some of this new wearable technology and use it to make sure that we're getting the most out of our investment in this biohacking human performance longevity space.
Oh, yeah. There is a lot to unpack there. So definitely its own episode. But I want to kick off this week's episode with a little bit of a warning. Do not worry if you don't have a PhD in physiology. You can still learn from this episode because I don't have a PhD in physiology and I have managed to understand how to make heart rate variability have a meaning in my life.
Mhm.
And I think as Don and you and I have talked so much about HRV in the past and continuously bring it up because it's such a core biometric to look at when it comes to how well your body can adapt, how resilient your nervous system is something straining you too much. So there's a lot of insight and it can get really, really, really complicated and it can get really sciencey. But I want to give people, based on your 20 practical tips for exploring HRV document that we will put in the link in the show notes for people to download. But it's so powerful to really start to and begin to understand what HRV is, how to look at it, when to look at it, why on earth would
Right,
you even care about it? So this is
right.
what we're going to get down into. And before I go down, I want to ask, what does HRV mean to you?
Well, it's the king variable for me. Um, I when I look at HRV, I look at it as, okay, is my health better? Am I healthier this month than I was last? Am I healthier this year than I was last year? And the question is what markers do we have to determine that? Am I doing better today than I was a year ago today? Well, you can go to the doctor and you can get blood draws, and you can look at inflammatory factors, you can look at metabolic factors, things like that. That's one way to do it. But frankly, that's kind of a dirty vision. And it's flirting with 0 to -10. This concept that we work with that we've talked about, it's flirting with 0 to -10. Am I diseased? And am I resolving my level of disease? I personally don't even want to live in that. Although we all have to at some point in time, something hits us and we've got to do it. I like living in the world of 0 to 10. Okay. And again, I think of 10 as my Olympians, and I think of 0 as, Joe Bag of Donuts out here just trying to get through life. And how can I work my way more towards my Olympians and being in
Yeah.
that performance? The number one key indicator for me on that is HRV. And we're going to talk about the what, when, where, and how of this here in the podcast. But literally, it's how I determine, am I doing better today, this week, this month, this year than I was the same time period before?
Yeah. And I do have to add, on a personal note, yes, all of what you just said. And I got to say that HRV has been so difficult for me to wiggle. It's
Mm,
just, it's one of those metrics that I find very difficult to continuously increase as much as I consider myself rather healthy.
sure.
And I mean, I do have dips in my resilience based on different lifestyle factors, but HRV has been the biometric that I just cannot seem to crack to actually increase. Also, it was probably 100% my fault that I have not really incorporated an intervention like you did with ketones or vagus nerve
Yep, yep.
that would that actually has a lot of science behind impacting HRV in a longitudinal basis. So I just haven't really had a chance, or I haven't really worked it into my life to solidify and put in like, okay, Klaudia, here's our protocol. This is what you're going to do for at least 4 to 8 weeks and then actually see my HRV. So I'm a little bit inconsistent for it to be an actual trend. So it's my fault. But
Well,
yeah,
and
it's been difficult.
I think what's interesting about HRV is that we are so conditioned to have an intervention and see an immediate response.
Mhm.
You know, a day, a week, an hour. Listen, I've been working this week. I'm over at a friend's place for the last 2 weeks. I'm helping him remodel a bedroom and a bathroom in this 200-year-old home. Tear out these ceilings. We're exposing these 200-year-old hand-hewn beams up in his attic. Well, I've been working overhead for 2 weeks now, and my shoulders are chewed right now. I
I
mean, they
bet.
are absolutely beat up. I haven't done work like this forever, and it's taken. And today I took a day off. In fact, I'm taking about 3 days off. I've got about 10 days in where we made a ton of progress, but I'm just having to get recovered. I'm having to give my body a chance to get back. When we started the project, I have an air bed that I brought over, and I was sleeping in his house on this air bed. So I'm no longer on my bed. I'm in a strange place. Um, Yesterday we moved our RV down to his house. So I'm sitting at his house right now. So for the immediate future, I'll be sleeping in my own bed. I'll have my
Yeah.
own routines. I'm back to my normal lifestyle. So, and I did see a hit in my HRV. I saw about a 40-point drop from my peaks. Now, here's the great point. I was working off of record highs.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
And I expect to, in the next week or two, to work my way back up because I've been able to establish processes that feed me. I've not done any red light therapy. I've not done any sauna work. I've not my nutrition has been completely zonked because I'm not in my kitchen. My supplementation has been zonked because I don't have my regular pack. Well, I do now, and it's going to be fun to watch, but I'm working off of. And the other thing about HRV is you have to take the long view on this. Um,
And
this is not something you do in a day, a week, or a month. I've been following HRV for myself for 7 years consistently now. And I had a major lifestyle challenge 4 years ago. I've talked about it on the pod before that I had a knee surgery that got a MRSA infection from, and I was very ill. Well, I really think I kind of cracked the return. My body said, okay, you're over this almost a year ago. And I started to see this good, consistent uptrend with relatively similar behaviors. Now, I threw in vagal nerve stimulation, and you can really see, I mean, when you look at the data, you can really see it there. Then we threw in this ketone ester thing, and I'm finishing a 2-week washout on my ketone esters because I've got another ketone product I want to try. Part of me is like, stop being a lab rat, continue to be a human, but at the end of the day, I'm kind of a lab rat. But so that my point is, take the long view. It's a very beneficial, critical view. I personally believe that there's going to be a day and time when you go to talk to your healthcare professional. The first question is going to be, what is your HRV? Let's see your records. Right now, it's what do you weigh? What's your blood pressure? How do you feel? Those are the questions they ask. I think there's going to be a day and time when they're going to say, let's look at your HRV data. What's going on? Let's look at your sleep data. Let's look at your CGM, or it's probably going to be CIM, continuous insulin monitor, to see what's going on with metabolic health. But I think these days are around the corner. I think we're seeing some big changes, and I'm excited about it. It may take another decade, but I
yeah,
fully expect it to happen.
yeah, I'm with you on that one. So before we, I think majority of our listeners are aware of what HRV stands for and what it
Hmm.
is, but I wanted you to explain in very, very. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but also Prior to this, can you tell me your why behind creating this 20 um,
Yeah.
rule, 20 practical tip for HRV?
I'll tell you exactly. So, just to bring the audience up to speed, on my website, Train, Recover, Win, in the products section, I've put a little white paper that I call 20 practical tips to HRV. Something I did it because I get questions. I have people ask me what, this, that. So I sat down and said, okay, can we put together something? And that's what this paper's there for. It's free. If you want it, go in there, put in your email. I think there may be one other thing I ask about, but it's something really simple. And I'll send you the paper. And if you have questions, we can start a discussion from that. I'm happy to do that. But I put this together because people were asking. I think you and I talked earlier today. I'm getting ready to do another little white paper on why you need a heart rate monitor in your life. I was over at a friend's place last week, a former wrestler. He's quite a bit younger than I am, but he's a former wrestler. He's got a great business in promotional products, and we were over visiting with he and his wife, and they just became empty nesters. So they're at the same place my wife and I were 5 years ago. And all of a sudden Scott's starting to work out, and he's using the same workout behaviors that he was using back when he was a wrestler. Yeah, there's some issues that go with that,
Yeah.
because he hasn't made the mindset shift to, okay, this isn't about performance anymore. This is about longevity. This is about health span, lifespan, and things like that. So there will be a white paper on heart rate monitor use too. The how, the
Yeah.
why, the practical. But I get a lot of questions about HRV. To answer your original question, I get a lot of questions about HRV. What's it mean? Where to start? How do I do this? Do I have to go out and spend, $400 to $1,000 on a wearable device? No, you don't. You can do this. There are free versions of this that you can do if you have a smartphone, and it starts to give you a feeling, starts to give you some feedback. Imagine the first person that ever drove a car when they established state patrol. Okay. So you're out driving your car every day, you're doing your things, yada, yada, yada. You don't care about speed limit. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, all of a sudden, there's this new thing called state patrol. And if you're going over the speed limit, you get a ticket. Well, all of a sudden, the value of having a speedometer in your car went way up.
Hmm.
This is the economics part of this. And so HRV is your health. It's that king variable. It's that thing that you look at. Am I getting better? Am I getting worse? And so the document's about giving you 20 tips on getting started on this.
That's awesome. And also, I mean, there's a lot of science behind. We're not just throwing around
Tons.
HRV in the realm of athletics and performance, but it has a lot of meta-analyses that are super
Hmm.
comprehensive, like looking at HRV's linked to mortality, all-cause mortality, cardiac mortality, and it is wild how much there's a correlation that is worth looking at. So no matter whether you are an athlete or somebody who just wants to get through the day, HRV can be a wonderful lens into how well your body is doing on in any given month or any given year.
One of the funny things about it is I have two very good friends, brilliant doctors. They are brilliant. And one of them, I said, he's my doctor, Eric
Mhm.
Serrano. I said, Eric, I go, because I go into his office once, twice a year. We've got scripts, things like that that we do, that we work with. And again, what do you weigh? What's your blood pressure? How do you feel? And I'm like, when are you going to ask me what my HRV is and what my CGM data is? And unfortunately, he's at the end of his career. We're the same age, and he's thinking about, ending his practice in medicine.
Mhm.
And he goes, that's not going to happen with me.
Yeah.
But it's going to happen. I'll tell you, it may not happen it's going to happen. The other is another brilliant doctor that I work with in the longevity field. And there are so many people that look to their HRV device for confirmation. You're doing fine. And it's not giving it to them. And they are very frustrated with it. They actually get rid of the ring. They stop wearing it. And I'm like, I don't listen. They're brilliant doctors. They've got a license to practice medicine. I don't. Um, but I do know that my use of HRV as an indicator for performance, we know there's a great correlation between high HRV and high athletic performance. We know it's
Yes.
there. We also know that there is a nice correlative response between low HRV and the onset of disease. I woke up this morning. I've had a little bit of a cold going the last couple nights, and my device said, "Hey, it looks like you may have the onset of some symptoms here." Listen, I pay enough attention that I know when I've got symptoms coming on. But I'll tell you, the first time I ever had a COVID infection, I didn't know it. It was my HRV data that showed it to me. It was my wearable data that showed it to me. And so, this is the interesting place about this. The data is solid. The processes and the integration are what is evolving right now. And we see it in the military. The military usually pushes a lot of boundaries on things like this. They are pushing the boundaries on this. The integration of HRV and elite military groups is absolutely growing, and the military is investing in it. So it's just a matter of time till that trickles down to standard of practice for
Yeah,
Joe
didn't the
Bag
military do something with Aura or something that's happening? Yeah.
Well, actually, they just saw a split. Aura was taking a little bit of heat from their regular users because they have a relationship with Palantir, a big AI group, with their military contracts. And the layperson's like, I don't want my data in Palantir. And there's two separate databases that Aura maintains for this. But yeah, there's a tremendous, and my first exposure to the military use, I was invited, God, it was 2018. I guess we're going on 7 years ago, down to a thing called the Institute of Human to Machine Cognition down in Pensacola, Florida, to do a presentation on HRV and performance athletics wrestling to the Surgeon General of the U.S. Special Operations Command, and this room full of the biggest heads I ever talked to in my life. It was the most intimidating thing I've ever done in my life, but that they were exploring. The Air Force knows when every bolt on an airplane wears out, and they have a plan to replace it. But they don't know what breaks their pilots. Or, I know that's a bit of a extreme.
Hyperbolic, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit hyperbolic. Thank you. But there's some truth in that.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing it with these elite warriors. Listen, I have a family member that was a naval special operator. I've had extensive conversations with him about, what are they looking at? What are you studying? What are you paying attention to? One of his people happened to be at the presentation I did down in Pensacola, so that was kind of fun. But yeah, this is emerging. And like I said, if you're not on board yet, mark my words, it will become part of your medical record. It'll become an important tool.
That's awesome. Okay. Let's talk about, we kind of addressed what it is, heart rate variability. We've addressed it. So I want to go into, which we also touched on, that why. Like, why are we looking at this metric when it comes to resilience and autonomic nervous system balance and state?
So when we look at the why, I think it's important to pay attention to what are our indicators? What pops up early that we may not recognize that's indicating, oh, there's a disease state. With HRV with my wrestlers, I had a situation one time where we're allowed to travel. We were allowed to travel 16 wrestlers to an away meet. So 10 starters and 6 backups. And I'm sitting in a meeting. They're trying to determine who and I'm like, we need to take 2 150-pounders. We normally didn't travel the 150-pounder backup. And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, well, his data yesterday showed it. I saw it again today. I'm pretty sure he's going to have the flu. He's going to have measurable flu symptoms by Friday when we have our dual meet. He got through the dual meet. By Friday night, he was sick as a dog. Saturday sick, couldn't wrestle Sunday. So we were able to use HRV to see the onset of symptoms before they were symptomatic. The central nervous system, the autonomic nervous system was already fighting off that infection. The infection was already, and listen, COVID, we've demonstrated this many times with COVID, that HRV will drop, respiration rate will increase, body temperature increases. There's a profile for COVID infection, and there'll be for the flu, and this will come as we get more data, but it's that indicator that why do you want to try? Listen, you want to figure out why you're on. And, we did the episode with the folks from Source, and they are using it, a really cool method of using this just from Source that, listen, when my HRV is down, I'm down. And maybe I shouldn't expect to get the best out of myself that day. And you've got to be willing to say, okay, listen, I'm out. I'm taking a day off. I'm just overwhelmed. And it gives you that tool. Then you have the days you wake up and you're on and you're like,
Yeah.
bring the world at me. Okay. And what was cool from a training standpoint with my athletes, I could go to the coach and say, listen, you've got bandwidth here. You can go harder if you want. When I did that, the coach usually said, no, we're good. We've got all we needed. Or I could go to the coach. The funny story, one of my funniest HRV stories is the guys went home for winter break and they're coming back. It's early. It's probably really late December. So it's December 27th, 28th, something like that. I think we had them back for New Year's. We had a match like on January 2nd or 3rd. And the guys had been home for a week or two. We're bringing them back and we're getting ready to bury them. I mean, we're getting ready. It's the last hard training block opportunity that we have for the season because then we're in the dual meets. Well, we get back and do their HRV measurements, the worst measurements I had the entire season, the day
Those
they got
Christmas
back from winter
meals.
break. Family stress is the worst stress. This is what we know. And so I needed to give my guys a day to recover from the family stress so that we could put them into our team stress and they'd have the resources to recover from it. So we went from a workout that was, okay, we're going to bury you today to, oh no, we're going easy, light drilling, get out of here. Let's
Yeah.
get a meal, sleep in the bed that you're used to sleeping in. That bed at home may have been the old bed that you're used to, but not anymore. Once you're in college, you've got your new routines, your new setups. So, and sleep quality is such a huge part of HRV, and improving HRV. But yeah, so that goes back to the why. It gives you that feedback tool. Is what I'm doing providing benefit? Am I moving the needle? Am I healthier? Am I ready to go?
And not only physical strain can impact HRV, but like you mentioned with the emotional stress around family,
Yes. Psychological, emotional.
emotional stress, psychological, and we've talked about this, so it isn't new, but it's just insane how it is get so shoved under the carpet, like, stress. And
It's
but HRV shows how many times have I seen if I was feeling anxious or a little bit like overwhelmed, my HRV takes a hit
yeah. Yeah.
without a doubt.
Yeah, no doubt it happens. And, Descartes was famous for saying there's a mind body duality, not to,
Yeah,
I mean, but that's bullshit. Um, there's the
it's
mind and the
all
body
one.
are linked, that vagal nerve. And we've talked about this before. If you go back to the Nawaz Habib episode, we spent a lot of time talking about the vagal nerve and vagal nerve stimulation, its ability to improve HRV. But that vagal nerve talks both directions. And we haven't talked about this on the podcast yet, but Dr. Tim Noakes, he's a South African physician and exercise physiologist. He has this concept that's called central governor model. He hypothesizes that cramps are not the body's, it's not out in the cell of the leg cramping. It's actually in the central nervous system protecting you. And that's got to get communicated somehow. Okay. So that's going to get communicated via HRV, via the vagal nerve. And this, you can't separate those.
Yeah, 100%. Anytime you have some type of an ailment or some symptom, it is your body trying to tell you something. It is
Yes.
not by chance. It is not by accident. There is something that you are not addressing, something you're not listening, and that isn't always physical. It isn't always a viral situation. A lot of times, I mean, I can't remember the author's name. The body keeps the score. There are
Yeah.
so many
Yeah.
things that are emotionally trapped in your tissues
Phenomenal book.
that,
Phenomenal book.
yeah, it's incredible. So highly recommend it.
So that's the why. It's that indicator that you look at. It's your bank balance. It's your emotional bank balance. It's your, investment balance. It's the whole thing. It's the amount of resources that you have to deal with stress. Some people will call HRV a stress indicator. I think that's a mistake. It's not a stress indicator. It's the indicator of the amount of resources that you have to deal with stress. I like to I think of stress as a fire. Okay. I can have a campfire that's warming me and providing pleasure and giving me just a wonderful experience. Or my house can be on fire. Okay, they're the same thing. The question is, what resources is it providing resources, or is it extracting resources? If your house is on fire, it's extracting resources. You're doing everything you can to save it. And the question is, do you have enough water in your bucket? So it's that HRV is the water in the bucket. How many resources do I have to deal with the stress? Then I can make decisions. Okay, do I want to participate in this event that's probably going to be stressful? Do I
Mhm.
want to? Do I, do I exercise and things like that? Because there are tools that we can do to fill the bucket, to fill the water bucket, and there are things that drain it. So it gives you that tool for making those decisions.
And I just wanted to piggyback off of that when you have a low HRV, because so many times people are like, oh, I have a low HRV, I can do what I want it to do. Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Like you
If you
can,
have a chronically low HRV, you got to pay
yes,
attention to it.
yes. But like, for example, like when I was in Saudi, I had 16-hour days, really long days, short nights. Sleep was not really a priority because it was just go, 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 a lot of on.
Right, right, right.
But I ended every single night with vagal nerve stimulation
Good.
because I needed my nervous system to kind of reset and help fill my bucket so I can handle the next 16-hour day.
Right.
So it's just those little practices and little tools that you have in your toolbox, like you mentioned, to help your body manage whatever life is throwing at you. But it doesn't mean you quit because you're like, my HRV is low, leave me alone. It's just that management piece.
Your HRV's low. Maybe I take a pass on the Friday night party that's going to keep me
Right.
out too late. And you learn to prioritize. Okay.
Mhm.
My HRV is unusually low. I'm going to get sleep tonight. Instead of going out and all the frivolity that comes with the things on a Friday night, today I'm going to stay in.
Yeah.
Those decisions get a lot easier when you've got a tool to follow them. Just say, listen, I'm not ready for this. So,
Yeah.
and again, it's also the piece for me. Listen, I'm an exercise physiologist. I've been doing this since I've been studying the process of exercise since 1982. Okay. I still have there's still a natural resistance. I'm not a natural, oh, I'm gonna get up and go out and run in the morning. I don't do that. I'm gonna get up. I have to constantly have feedback from me saying, you know what, get your fat ass off the chair. You got work you've got to go do. And HRV drives a lot of that. And I also do a thing. I love the idea, the concept of what I call trainable life events. I love the idea of putting things out on the horizon. For me, it's usually winter skiing right now. That's a big deal for me. So and I know that if I don't train, I won't ski as well, and my risk of injury goes up significantly. So I put those events out there. So, listen, if we've got a trip to the beach, or if we've got an event coming up with family, I want to be on. When I go to someone's wedding and it's a good reception, I want full juice at that point, because, from a community standpoint, that's when I thrive. So, but I want to be able to go into that fully gassed.
Mm.
So those are kind of the tools that I use for that. And now as I've moved into third of my life, I'm paying attention to it. Over the last 5 years, I've practically quadrupled my HRV measurements just by focusing, just by paying attention, having that dashboard. That makes me feel really good about the next decade,
That's
about
very
my
good.
ability. I lost my dad. In 10 years, I'll be the same age that I lost my dad. Now, my dad had a major coronary, a major heart attack, a major lifestyle change when he was 5 years younger than I am now. And so I'm playing in this zone. My mother passed away when she was 85. She had a great life, passed away, and she right till the end. My dad really struggled with his health, so I pay real close attention to that. It's always in the back of my head. But you know what? I take a great deal of peace in the fact that, I popped a 107 HRV the other day on my Aura ring, about 2.5 weeks ago. And I'm like, damn, okay. And Klaudia, I go back to years ago, when I had that infection in my knee, I was dealing with HRVs in the teens. Okay,
Yeah.
for a significant amount of time. My body was doing everything to heal and my buckets were empty.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm popping these things. I've now moved solidly into my nighttime averages are now solidly over 50 and 60, with some peaking in the 80s and 90s. Now that I can take on a project like my buddy's house and spend several weeks doing construction work that I don't normally do.
Yeah.
Um, I love it. I mean, one of the reasons I'm here doing it is because he has all my tools in his barn. When we went mobile, I put all my tools in his barn. So that's good, and I love doing this kind of work.
That's
But it takes a
wonderful.
lot out of you, and I'm seeing a little bit hit. I'm seeing a hit in my HRV. I've dropped in the 80s and 90s down into the 50s and 60s. Um, get a couple nights recovery. I fully expect those to come back.
Because you know when to look at it and how to look at it, which is another thing I want to go into right now.
Sure.
I want to address the when and the how altogether because I think they're kind of it's a good match to
Yep.
address instead of one after the other. So there are a lot of different ways people measure HRV and how they measure HRV, and I want to kind of double down on there are multiple ways to do it correctly.
Correct.
It's not just one way.
Validly. Let's use the term validly instead
Okay,
of
that's
correctly.
good.
They're valid ways to measure.
Yeah, multiple valid ways to measure HRV. And can you explain what are some of those ways
Yep.
and whether somebody should stick to one for an extended period in order to get an accurate representation of their HRV trend, or like you shouldn't be jumping from one this today I'm going to measure it this way and then tomorrow I'm going to measure it that way. So just kind of see what are the best practices when it comes to the how and when.
Yeah, I think there are three very valid times that you can measure HRV. My preferred is nighttime resting. So you're wearing a wearable device like an Aura ring, like a Now Watch, like something like this. While you sleep, this thing's collecting data and it's measuring the interbeat interval of your heart throughout the night. I like the nighttime resting because when I reach my peak HRV, that's telling me, okay, my body has recovered from the work that I have done. Okay. And that tells me how much I've recovered. This is my preferred method. Now, secondarily to that, when I started measuring HRV, we were measuring it first thing in the morning. You'd wake up, usually go to the bathroom, take care of your bodily urges early in the morning, come back, lay in bed. We didn't have devices at that time that would measure it like a phone camera like you can now. So we had to put on a chest strap. We had to put on a slimy, wet chest strap. And frankly, I don't think that is a sustainable way to measure, but it's a valid way to measure. And now we have tools where we can just take our phones
Yeah,
and we can put our finger on the camera of the phone and we can get a good valid measure. So
I
that's
have
that's
to try
improved
that.
that process because I don't have to put the slimy chest strap on first thing in the morning. Now, if you have a family, forget it. Okay? Because unfortunately, family dictates waking behaviors. And I was just talking to a good friend of mine the other day, Marcelo Aller, who's kind of an
Mm.
HRV guy too. We've worked together. Yeah, yeah, we've worked
Yeah, I
together.
worked with him.
And he's got kids younger than mine, and he's like, I can't measure in the morning. He says, I've got someone, doing a track meet across the bed, and the dog's barking, and things are going crazy, and but when I wake up, I got to go. So it is valid to measure first thing in the morning if you are super dedicated to what you do. If you're a distance runner, if you're really invested and you can carve out that time, better if you're single and no kids. But that's a very good way. And I'll tell you, there's an expert in the field. His name's Dr. Marco Altini. Marco talks about this this is his preferred way. I get it. I don't want
Yeah.
to minimize that, but I do want to talk about life. Your lifestyle influences it. So this is the second time. So first thing in the morning, after you wake up, go to the bathroom, get your measure. One of the other reasons I like nighttime resting better than that is that when we start to waking cycle, one of the things is your body dumps cortisol as you start to wake to free up resources because you need energy when you wake up. Well, that cortisol is going to shorten up. It's going to tighten up your HRV. So I like to get that as clean as I can get. Morning measurement is good. Now, the third time that we would measure is we would measure right before practice. The guys would be coming in, and I couldn't get them to do the morning measurement. They just wouldn't put the chest strap on. And so they learned that when they came into practice, they're going to lay down there, they're going to do a 5-minute measurement, and that was just part of the process. And you know what? Our data was valid. We went back and checked the things that were going on. So when we would go on morning road trips, I would usually go room to room and measure. We usually 2 guys in a room, and so I had to go do 8 measurements, 16 guys, and I just go room to room and get the measurements so they're all consistent. But consistency, this is the point I want to bring out of this. Whether you're doing it nighttime resting, first thing in the morning, right before practice, do it the same time all the time. That gives you data that you can compare. Comparing your nighttime resting to your daytime, bad use of the data. Comparing morning to pre-practice, bad use of the data. Comparing today at one time to yesterday at the same time, great use of the data. So that's kind of the when that you have to pay attention to.
Thank you. That was the end of it. Was just so good, just to drive it home. Very cool.
Yeah, it's
When you measure it before practice or even in the morning, obviously that's a little bit more manual than it being measured automatically overnight. What is the length of that measurement?
you can go as short as 3 minutes. There's very valid measurements that are now down, and I'll tell you that it gets better all the time. The tools get better, the devices get better. I mean, if you think about this device,
Yeah, like
this is
how
an
long do you
iPhone
hold your
16.
how long do you hold your finger here?
2 minutes.
2 minutes?
Lay there and breathe for 2
And there's
minutes.
like an app you download?
Yep. HRV for training, they have a free app, and Elite HRV has a free app. So you can use both of those, and they work good. So if you want to
I gotta try
experiment
it
and
in the
start to get,
morning.
yeah. Now listen, you're wearing an Aura ring. Okay. That's the lab rat in you coming out, by the way. So this is the reason I love the Aura ring. For me, it is the greasiest, smoothest, easiest way to measure HRV. This is an Aura ring for the audience. You can see on the inside all the sensors there. Yep, that's Claudia's. It slips on. I wear this as my wedding ring now. I don't
That's what
wear
my
my regular.
sister-in-law does.
Yeah, I don't wear it as my now. I would wear my other wedding ring, but I thought size 13 is the largest size they make. And so many people wear it on their index finger. My index finger is a size 15.
Hmm.
It just won't go over the knuckle.
Yeah.
So that's the smallest knuckle on my hand besides my pinky. So that's why I wear it on that. And I don't even have to think about it. It
Yeah.
measures,
It's
it
very
does
seamless.
fine. I like it better than wrist worn. Now wrist worn are getting better. The devices are getting smoother. They're getting smaller, but I believe the data quality is a little better coming across either the earlobe, inside the finger, or inside the toes. That kind of the data coming from there's a little better than coming from the back of your wrist. So that's why I look
Now,
at that.
one more question in the methodology of measurement. Sitting down, laying down, standing up, does it matter as long as you
Yes.
keep it consistent? Okay, so what is more
Keep it
sense to you?
consistent. And if you're an elite athlete and you're starting to do this, there's a methodology where you do measure laying down, then you measure sitting up, and you look at the difference between the two. That
Mhm.
little bit of a physical challenge. If you're an elite athlete, that's not a bad thing. This is something Marco talks about all the time. And listen, I think he does a great job. I know when I'm working with an athlete, if they have an Aura ring on their finger, that's the data I go with.
Also, when it comes to looking at doing the phone, because maybe for somebody who doesn't have a wearable yet and want to give it a
Hmm.
shot,
Sure.
the phone camera is an easy access, like a very low cost enter
Yeah.
barrier of
Or
entry.
no cost. Yeah.
Oh, actually, yeah, no cost barrier of entry. So when I used to work at a wearable company, there was a lot of talk about the noise that could interfere with data integrity. Do we have to worry about extensive light around us, movement when it comes to the
You
phone?
don't want to move. You want to stay still as much as you can. As far as light, the only problem I've seen, I have a red light panel in my office that I use, and I've tried to measure HRV using light sensors. It picks up the rhythm of the red light. So I can't do that. I can do it with an EKG. I can do it with a chest strap. I can't do it with the photoplasmography device, number
Yeah,
one.
the PPG,
Number
yeah.
two is everybody buffers their data. Okay. All the manufacturers, all the apps, everybody buffers the data. It's unfortunately, it's part of the game. The question is, do they buffer the data so much that it's no longer valid? No, I don't think so. I think we have good, valid measurements. And again, Marco's background is as a data scientist. He's PhD in data science. I mean, this is so, that's one of the reasons I like what he does so much. And I subscribe to his Substack. I pay close attention to what he has to say. The best way to do it is the way that you do it, the way that you'll get it done. And I have found the ring the best modality, greater than the watch. I don't like sleeping with a watch on. I sleep with a ring just fine, and I get good data that way.
Yeah. Now, I want to because we have a limited time left. In previous episodes, we've talked about ways to improve HRV. So I just want to get down a few that, without diving deeper, that
Sure.
have been shown across different studies and research to impact HRV in a positive or negative way. So there's one
Right.
way to improve it. There are certain practices you can do, but then there are also, which you also mentioned in your document, about HRV having like different medications could impact HRV.
You have to pay attention to it. Um, I've had several occasions when I had my fitness facility. I used to have this little facility called Lemonade Neighborhood Fitness, and it was pretty cool because everything plugged into a computer. We are measuring tons of stuff. I have a good friend of mine that's a doctor, just busting his ass on one of my pieces of equipment, and his heart rate's not going up. And he's like, I don't know what's going on. And I'm like, Jim, do you take blood pressure medication? And he stops for a second, and he had not put two and two together himself, and he's a doctor. Yeah. And I'm regularly when I'm working with adults in the longevity space, I'm regularly, listen, everybody's on blood pressure medication for the most part. So whether you're on an ACE inhibitor, a beta blocker, a calcium channel blocker, it will have an impact on your HRV, no doubt about it. When you take your medication will have an impact. A good friend of mine that's an elite cyclist, that's taking a blood pressure medication. We just have him take the blood pressure medication after his ride. So the effect of the med is off the most. And again, he's now getting older. He's not quite 70 yet, but it's just move it to after the ride. The doctor just wants you to get it in every 24 hours. Okay. They don't care what time it goes in. So don't take it before your ride, because that's when it's going to have the maximal effect. Take it when it's going to have the least amount of effect. And so that's one of the things you can always talk to your physician about this first. Okay. Bring this up, make the point, but bring the data to them again. Cause Jim, my buddy, he's the doctor and he's taken the blood pressure med, and it didn't even connect with him. So yeah, this is really important. Other tools to improve HRV. There's three things that you just cannot ignore. Number one is cardiovascular fitness. As you improve cardiovascular fitness, your resting heart rate drops. So the number of beats per minute become less, so the time between beats increase. The more time between beats, the more opportunity I have for variability. If you have a resting heart rate of greater than 70 beats a minute, that's probably your limiting factor. You want to be able to get that down. Elite athletes, these elite people, they have resting heart rate, these nighttime resting heart rates of in the high threes, low threes. Now, you got to be careful. There's other issues that come in there with HRV, but improve cardiovascular fitness, number one thing you can do. Number two, reduce the impact of stress. Consciously engage in this. Breathing is the number one driver in improvement in HRV. If I just go to simple 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out breathing, belly breathing, I will significantly improve my HRV. If you do that as a practice morning and night, maybe 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night, you will see a steady, what you're doing is you're reducing the impact of stress. You're putting water on the fire. You're lowering the fire. We're going from a house fire to a campfire. So that's what that process is. And then the third thing that we'll go through two more. So the third thing is lowering inflammation. There are things that you do in your life, dietarily, drugs, supplements, things like that. You want to start to pay attention to what's going on with inflammation. I know, listen, If I get on an airplane today, fly out to LA, when I wake up the next morning, I'm going to have a hard time taking this ring off my finger because I'm going to be inflamed. After I've got a good routine going and I'm lowering it, not only can I take it off this finger, but I'll put it on this finger easily. So I'm a little swollen right now when I do that. So this is one of the things I can really tell is how well do my rings come on where I see inflammation. So lower your inflammation. SPMs, inflammatory reducing supplements of omega-3s, fish oil, things like that. These are great tools for lowering inflammation. And then the fourth thing, am I on 4? Yeah, I'm on 4 now.
Yeah, for
Sleep. Sleep. You have to guard your sleep like it's gold. Okay? It's literally the most important time. And again, we've had Molly Eastman on the podcast. We're going to have her back on. Molly's Sleep is a Skill does an outstanding job. I have blackout curtains in my bedroom. I have a little noise that I play. It's not blackout sound, it's blackout light. A little bit of light, a little bit of sound, is a good thing. So having a little bit of sound, neutral sound helps, but blackout, a cool environment. I like to think of it as a cave. Sleep like a cave, sleep like a caveman. That doing those things. And there's some interesting tools there, but those are the 4 things: improve your sleep, improve aerobic fitness, emotional stability, which you get through breathing and meditation and these kinds of tools. And that's part of the process of getting things rolling.
is a fantastic list. I wanted to add one more that we talked about in the past that also impacts HRV that we talked about in our previous episodes, which is hydration and electrolytes.
Absolutely.
Studies have shown that even just 1 to 2% drop in hydration is actually going to drop your HRV. So because it impacts your nervous system's resilience, it impacts how your body is able
And
to
hydration isn't
work.
just drinking water, it's
No,
drinking electrolyte water.
rich water,
It's
yes.
getting it into the cells. So there's sodium, potassium, magnesium that come into play. Yeah, the reason I'm doing my washout from my ketones that we talked about earlier is I have a sample of a beta hydroxybutyrate magnesium supplement that I want to start to play with to see if it affects my sleep.
Being elaborate.
Well, that's a little bit of it. Hey, if
I
it works out,
like
we'll
it.
have it as a product on the website. So don't kid
Oh
yourself.
yeah, bioaccurate heart.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you. This was good. I think we talked so much about HRV, and I'm glad that we addressed it from a little different angle than perhaps most people do. And there were a lot of different stories that I think a lot of our listeners can relate to. And because I foresee some listeners are already playing around with this biometric, some are just playing around with the idea of wanting to understand it more. So I hope that this episode really helped clarify what it is, how to use it, when to look at it, why it's something you should consider being part of your life, not only if you're an athlete, but also if you just want to understand your nervous system's resilience.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. And also, I would love to hear, and I'll toss it to you in a minute. I really
Yeah.
want to hear what other people's have experienced, those of
Yes.
you playing with HRV. What has made the biggest shift in your HRV, both positive and negative? Like, have you noticed anything that really bumped up your HRV, like the ketones or the vagus nerve for Don?
Mm-hmm.
Or have you noticed something that really tanked your HRV on a trend basis? Like, I'm not looking at like it spiked up to 100 at night, because sometimes it can be an artifact, no?
Absolutely. Absolutely can be. Yeah, there and we talked about the fact that the data gets buffered from time to time.
Sometimes, yeah.
And so you got to be careful there. But yes, it can be an artifact, but that's why you look at it. We said this on Navaz Habib's episode. If you wake up in the morning and look at your HRV and make a decision what you're doing today, you're messing it up. Okay, that's the wrong way to use the data. If you keep track of it over time and you're going back and using the tools, we in an earlier episode I pulled up the iCloud, the cloud of the Aura ring, so you could look at data over 7 years and we could really start to get a picture for what's moving the needle, what's really going on. We saw when I was out in Lake Tahoe for several months starting about a year ago, man, I saw this great little climb in my HRV happen then, which when I came down to sea level, it went away to a certain degree, but I've been able to work. We're not going back out this year. We had Jacqueline she injured her knees, both of them, so no skiing this year. But can't wait to get back out there for an extended period of time next year.
Yeah, you guys will. I know it. She's a fighter. She'll get right
Yeah,
on
she'll do good.
those
Yep.
days.
So, and if you're listening and you have questions, train, recover, win, go to products. It's up in the top right in the menu bar. You'll see 20 ways, the 20 ways for HRV. It's free. If you have a question, feel free to send a note. You can go into comments and send a note. I love responding. And I'll tell you, some of my favorite friendships have come from people who sent out a note. We've sat down and had a series of discussions.
Speaking of friendships, one thing we didn't mention, the other side of the coin where HRV tanks when you have emotional stress from family. HRV can also increase and when you have strong social bonds and strong
Mhm.
social connections. I mean, just from an example, when I was in Saudi, it was very intense, but I met this other journalist girl who was ended up sharing a hotel room with, and oh my god, I have not laughed this much. We were
Nice.
just in such sync,
Good for
and
you.
we were laughing so much, and I saw it in my HRV. I saw it over time. Like by the third night, my HRV was like up here when I was exhausted, just physically.
Happiness.
It's insane how much social connection and just laughter can really tell your body, like, you're safe, you're good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool.
Claudia, now that you mention it, my HRV's been climbing ever since we started the podcast.
Oh, yeah. I'm
There you
not
go.
taking
May
credit, but I'm taking credit.
not be causal, maybe correlational, but damn it, we're going to keep going. So,
We are gonna keep going. We have so much to talk about, and it's been a lot of
hey,
fun.
if you liked it, please like, share, comment,
Subscribe.
subscribe. It really helps us out. If you have questions, please send us a note. There's multiple ways to get us. You can get us from my website, Train, Recover, Win. You can hit us on social media. You're probably seeing some kind of a clip on social media.
Yeah,
Respond there. The best way to get a response, uh, I don't know about you, but I don't spend a lot of time living in the comments on social media. I find that to be a less than positive space many times. But again, jump to our website. You can see contact, put it in, and I guarantee you'll get a response.
exactly. Also, you can find me at Longevity Journalist wherever you look up whatever social media you use. So yeah, find us, message us, drop a comment in the YouTube because I look at it, and if something that is it that we need to respond to, then Don and I talk about it.
You're so
So
good. I
somebody's
just,
gonna look at it. Yeah, that's how you
it's
go.
not
That's how
not
we
not my
co-host.
favorite. That's
That's
how
how
it
we
goes.
co-host.
Okay.
All right, guys. Like, subscribe, comment, let us know what's up in your life, and we'll come back to you in a week.
See ya.
See ya.